each of us has made, different choices. We've made different decisions, which comes to be to start shaping our belief system and how it is that we act, throughout. And those things are, most of them are, we're not consciously aware of them. They're just integrated. They're just part of how we go. Allowing the different parts in ourselves to have an update. That's the programming component, works really, really nicely, right? Because as we grow, we have different updates, right? Because our hormonal changes, our responsibilities and whatnot. But some of those dynamics, the way that we learn to integrate new information, the way that we learn how to relate to each other, some of it is stuck. If we get an update about, hey, this is me and I'm okay, and whoever I have in front of, they're okay as well, right? And try to see beyond those apparent limitations, right? And so most of the time, what happens is that we grow up without fully understanding that the person in front of us is going through some stuff, but there is much more worth and value beyond that limitation that they're showing us. Right. And once that limitation is brought to the forefront, right? Not only like, oh, I'm screwed, I'm limited in this way. So like, well, how come? What are those? What is that limitation associated with? What are the sensations? What are the emotions tied to that? And we also, the funny thing is, like, we perceive the world through our senses, So we have visuals, and from the things that we sense, the visuals, the auditory, the kinesthetic, the smells, and the taste, right? That's how we start to make meaning, right? And that's when we communicate. Every time we're, sharing, we do it in such a fast pace, yeah. But we're exchanging all these, experiences, and then we translate it. So I throw something up, you pick it up, and you make it up into your own map of the world, right? So with some people, it's really easy because we have these compatible maps, and other people that are acting completely fine, we just don't understand. Trying to learn that is what's going on, right? And that they're perfectly fine, and that more often than not, they actually want something similar to what we want, which is to be better, right? For ourselves and for those who we love, and therefore for everybody else. That's at least that's my take on it.
Yeah, if you go deep enough, it gets down to a handful of select desires, and everyone's just got, like you said, different maps to get there. And sometimes those maps are so drastically different on the outer appearance, it looks like it's completely different. But if you look at it and then you find out you're going to the same destination, you just have different directions. It is quite amazing, and it gives you a lot more. For me, it gave a lot more respect and compassion and empathy than I ever had before. Even simple things like someone cutting you off on the freeway. I used to get so mad, like start boiling me, and I'd be aware of like all these other bad drivers. And then my perspective gets so peaceful to drive now. And like, oh, they must be in a hurry. Oh, okay. Whatever's going on for them, that's their best choice to drive like that, So, and then, whatever it is. And then a story really hit me when I was reading, now I'm blanking on it. Stephen Covey. I think it's How to Influence People is that main book that he wrote. He talked about walking in, or maybe it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Maybe it's in that book. Anyway, he one of those books, but he was getting on the subway in New York. He's on the subway. Someone else is getting on, and they are getting on with their children. And the person sitting next sat next to Stephen Covey, and then the kids were running all around the train, and it's during commute hours, so all these business people are on the subway, and they're all starting to give dirty looks, and they're getting upset that these kids are running up and down the train car. And Stephen Covey's like, well, I guess I better say something because I'm the one sitting next to the fellow. So he taps the guy, and the guy had his head down, and he like looks up, and Stephen Covey goes, I think these are your kids in the car. Is that correct? And he's like, oh, yes. And he said, do you think, Stephen Covey says, do you think that we should have them settle down? I think, it might be upsetting some of the other people in the car. And the man said, he looked at him, he's like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I just came from the hospital where my wife passed away, their mother. I guess I'm just not paying attention, and that struck me. And I had read that, just before or right around the time that I started down this path of this work, and it all just like clicked for me. It's like, this is the way it is. We never know and that's that map, that guy's map was a mess at that moment, right? Like he's dealing with some really big things, and to see why a simple thing like having his kids sit still on the train could be completely overlooked because that was not even near the priority in that gentleman's mind. And so that those stories and all the things that you and I've learned, it's allowed me to really see the human experience in a new way that has allowed for us to help people now, so kind of want to switch gears with some of the time that we have left. Is that now, after having all this change and learning all of this and having this experience, Alvaro, like, how did you decide that you wanted to use this tool for your life's work, like to start helping people? Was there another turning point where you're like, wow, I can do this to help others?
One of my interests when I went to school, I got a bachelor's in science, a master's in science. I went to work in science, and that was a lot of it triggered by being able to express and share and make things better, right? And what I found is like the work that I was doing was extremely, in some cases, it was like interesting and fruitful, but most of the time it was just pushing paper, at a high level, but basically pushing paper, writing reports. This is the information that I got. This is my conclusions. Here you go. This allows me to work with people, right? And as I have been integrating the learnings about myself and how we actually operate, it also allows me to better communicate with people, and that allows me to help them help themselves. As you were telling the story earlier, one of the things that is funny is like, we're all different in the same way.
Yeah.
Right. And so it says like, okay, so when we go back, the essence, right, the roots are pretty much the same, right, on our own individual experiences. And each of us has made, different choices. We've made different decisions, which comes to be to start shaping our belief system and how it is that we act, throughout. And those things are, most of them are, we're not consciously aware of them. They're just integrated. They're just part of how we go, right? You don't have to think to how to walk. Right? It's something that is integrated. And to work with people in that arena, because it takes not only technique, right? But it also takes the little bit of the oomph to be able to sit with someone, and be with them through that ordeal, right? And understanding that they are not broken, right? Yeah. They are going through something, and they've been going through it through a whole life, but now they come to a point that is just like, I want something different.
Right.
And to be able to honor that and to thank them, to be able to work with you and to be there with them as they start looking at all these things through questions and through presence. So the more I have been engaged with the teachings of Carl and Carla, and the more it percolates the understanding of what they have been teaching. It's like things start to blossom, not only about myself, but also how to best work, how to best present myself to others in ways that are congruent with myself and congruent with the things that I want to achieve for myself and for others. Right? To be a little bit of a mirror in a way.
Hey there, I want to give you something really big. It's called Clear Path to Customers. It's the way that we get the right language to get the right client. I like to call them your wow clients, so that you can have more results, more revenue, more raving fans, and more referrals. And I want to give this to you absolutely free. And all you have to do is go to stevenapolitan.com to check it out, or you can look at the description here. We'll put the details there. As always, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom.